When we talk about what women truly long for in a man, one of the most overlooked aspects is emotional leadership. Now, that phrase might sound intimidating or even manipulative to some, but that's only because we've lost touch with what it actually means. Emotional leadership is not about control, domination, or silencing the woman you love. It's about taking responsibility for the tone you set, the energy you bring, and the direction you provide in moments where emotions are high and clarity seems absent. Women are not asking you to be perfect, but they are begging for men who can hold their ground when storms arise. A man who doesn't fall apart the second there's conflict, who doesn't crumble under pressure, but instead steadies the moment, steadies her heart, and steadies himself. Think about how many men shy away from conflict. They withdraw, they avoid, they retreat into silence. Maybe they do it out of fear of saying the wrong thing. Or maybe they've been conditioned to believe that the less they engage, the less they'll make things worse. But the truth is, avoidance doesn't create peace, it breeds distance. And that's exactly the kind of distance that makes women feel unseen, unheard, and unloved. What women are aching for is a man who can step into that discomfort and say, I know this is difficult, but I'm here, and I'm not running away from this. That single act of courage is emotional leadership. You see, leadership in this sense is about being the anchor, not the tyrant. It's being the calm in the chaos. It's listening when she needs to be heard, not with passive indifference, but with engaged presence. And when she spirals into her emotions, as all human beings do at times, it's offering the reassurance that those emotions don't scare you, that her intensity doesn't push you away. Women want to know that the man they're with can handle the weight of the emotional landscape without folding in on himself. That creates safety, and safety creates trust. But don't mistake this for passivity. Emotional leadership is also about direction. It's about taking initiative when a decision needs to be made, not shrugging your shoulders and saying, I don't care, whatever you want. That's not freedom. That's burden shifting. A man who can stand firm and say, here's what I think we should do. Here's the path I see. What do you think? That man is offering structure, clarity, and stability. He's saying, I'll carry this with you. And whether she agrees or disagrees in the moment, the fact that you've stepped up rather than stepped back is what matters most. This doesn't mean you'll never falter. Of course you will. There will be times when your temper slips, when you feel exhausted, when you don't know what to do. But emotional leadership isn't about never failing. It's about returning to responsibility even after you fall short. It's about recognizing when you've brought unnecessary chaos into the relationship, owning it without defensiveness, and setting things back on course. That humility, paired with strength, is what women remember. They don't remember a man who never stumbled. They remember the man who refused to abandon his post when it mattered most. And here's the irony. So many men think they'll push women away by being firm, decisive, or strong in moments of turbulence. But it's the opposite. Women are drawn to men who can be steady without being cold, who can be strong without being domineering, who can guide without stripping away her agency. That is the delicate balance of emotional leadership, strength that serves, not strength that suppresses. A woman will never forget the man who gave her the gift of security in moments where her world felt uncertain. And if you can become that man, if you can stand with presence, clarity, and calm in the middle of chaos, you will not only earn her respect, but also her deepest admiration. Because emotional leadership is not just what she wants, it's what she can't stop craving. There is a strange paradox in what women truly desire from men, and most men miss it entirely. They believe strength means being impenetrable, untouchable, unshaken by anything or anyone. And yet, what women long for is not the man who hides everything behind a hard exterior, but the man who carries strength and vulnerability in the same breath. A man who can be a rock when the situation demands it, but who is also human enough to let her see the truth of his heart. That balance, what I call vulnerable strength, is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can ever embody. Think about it. When a man pretends to have it all together, never admitting doubt, never revealing pain, he might appear confident on the surface. But beneath that mask, there is often fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being seen as weak, fear of losing respect. And women can feel it. They can sense when a man is posturing, when his armor is built too thick, when he's holding back the truth of himself. What they're begging for is not another performance of masculinity, but a window into his soul, paired with the stability of a man who won't collapse under the weight of his own honesty. Vulnerability without strength can feel chaotic and burdensome. A man who spills every insecurity without ever grounding himself leaves a woman feeling like she has to carry him. That's not what she wants. On the other hand, strength without vulnerability creates a wall so high she can never climb it, and so she never feels truly connected. But when strength and vulnerability come together, when a man has the courage to say, "This is what I fear, this is what I dream, this is where I've fallen short," while standing tall enough not to be swallowed by those admissions, that is where intimacy deepens, that is where respect grows, and that is where love becomes unshakable. Imagine telling the woman you love about your struggles, not in a way that demands she solve them for you, but in a way that allows her into your world. Imagine saying, "I've been wrestling with this, and it hasn't been easy, but I'm working on it." What you're communicating is honesty without helplessness. You're showing her that your strength is not built on the illusion of perfection, but on the courage to face imperfection head on. And that, more than anything, reassures her that you are real, that you are grounded, and that you can be trusted. Too many men think admitting weakness will diminish them in the eyes of women, but it is precisely the opposite. Women crave the man who doesn't need to posture because his worth isn't tied to an image. They crave the man who can shed his armor in front of her because he knows his identity isn't fragile. That vulnerability is not weakness. It is proof of confidence. It is saying, "I can let you see me fully, flaws and all, because I am not afraid of being known." And here's the beauty of it. When you lead with vulnerable strength, you give her permission to do the same. She feels safer sharing her own struggles, her own fears, her own imperfect humanity. Together, that creates a bond that cannot be manufactured through surface-level gestures. It creates a partnership rooted in truth, not performance. The men who dare to embody this paradox of vulnerable strength are unforgettable. They leave a mark, not because they were flawless, but because they were courageous enough to be both strong and open, steady and real. And the truth is, a woman will never stop longing for that kind of man. The man whose strength is proven not by what he hides, but by what he has the courage to reveal. One of the rarest qualities a man can bring into a relationship, and one of the things women silently beg for, is deep presence. Not physical presence. Anyone can sit in the same room and still be 1,000 miles away. I'm speaking about the kind of presence that pulls her into the moment, the kind that makes her feel like nothing else in the world matters when you're with her. This is not just about listening. It's about listening with your whole being. It's about setting down the phone, turning off the noise, and looking at her with the kind of attention that says, "I see you, I hear you, I am here with you." And most men don't realize how powerful that is, how unforgettable it becomes for a woman who has spent her life surrounded by distractions and divided attention. When a man is deeply present, he communicates value without a single word. He tells her, "You matter enough for me to give you my undivided attention." And this doesn't only apply when she's sharing something monumental. It applies in the smallest, quietest moments, when she's talking about her day, when she's expressing a passing thought, or even when there's silence between you. Because presence is not just about words. It's about energy. It's about being fully grounded in the moment rather than drifting somewhere else in your mind. Too many men underestimate how damaging divided attention is, sitting with her but scrolling through your phone, nodding while your mind is on work or offering half-hearted mmhmms. While you think about something else, it chips away at connection. Over time, it makes her feel invisible. And women don't forget that feeling of being unseen, but the reverse is also true. When you are present, when you give her your whole focus, she remembers it. She feels it deep in her soul, because presence is a form of love that cannot be faked. Now, presence is not passive. It's not about sitting there blankly while she speaks. It's active. It's leaning in, engaging, asking questions that show you care about what she's saying. It's reflecting back to her not just her words, but the emotions underneath them. It's noticing when her tone shifts, when her eyes change, when she hesitates, and then inviting her to share more. That's how trust is built. That's how intimacy deepens, and there's another layer to this. Deep presence is not just for her sake. It transforms you as a man as well. When you train yourself to be fully present with her, you sharpen your ability to be present in life as a whole. You become more grounded, more aware, more in touch with your environment, your work, your own inner world. The skill of presence elevates you everywhere, but nowhere more profoundly than in love. The truth is, presence requires discipline. It requires setting aside the constant pull of distraction, the urge to check notifications, the compulsion to escape into your own head. It requires choosing her over and over again in the moment you're in. That is why it's so powerful, because it doesn't happen by accident. It is an act of will, of care, of intentionality, and this is why women crave it so deeply, because a man who can be fully present with her is rare. He stands apart, not because he has the loudest voice or the strongest body, but because he has mastered the quiet strength of attention. And when you give that gift to a woman, she doesn't just feel noticed. She feels cherished, valued, and deeply loved. A man like that is unforgettable because presence is not temporary. It is etched into her memory as the clearest proof that she was truly seen. There is a kind of energy between men and women that often gets buried under the weight of seriousness, routine, and the relentless responsibilities of life. But at the core of attraction, there is something primal, something playful, something charged with tension. It is the dynamic where a man steps into his role with confidence and assertiveness, but not in a way that crushes joy, rather in a way that sparks it. This is what I call playful dominance, and it is one of the positions women are silently begging men to embody, yet far too many men never dare to try. Most men confuse dominance with control, as if it's about barking orders or forcing submission. That isn't what women want. What they crave is a man who knows how to take the lead, but does it with a lightness, with a sense of fun, with an energy that says, I see you, I desire you, and I'm not afraid to stir the fire between us. Playful dominance is teasing her in a way that makes her laugh, while also reminding her of your strength. It's pulling her close unexpectedly, making her feel both secure and thrilled in the same breath. It's initiating, guiding, not waiting passively for her to set the tone. Think about how dull relationships become when both people are waiting for the other to create excitement. Too many men retreat into neutrality, always asking, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? How do you want this to unfold? On the surface, it seems polite, but underneath, it leaves her carrying the burden of direction. Playful dominance relieves her of that weight. It steps forward with boldness, with certainty, with a touch of unpredictability that reignites passion. It could be as simple as grabbing her hand and saying, we're going out, you'll see where, instead of debating endlessly over dinner plans. It could be whispering something daring in her ear at the exact moment she expects you to stay quiet. It could be holding her gaze just a little longer than is comfortable, until she laughs, blushes, and feels that spark. These are not grand gestures, they are subtle shifts in energy that communicate leadership, desire, and confidence. And this is what women remember, but here's the key. It's playful, it's not heavy-handed, not oppressive, not cruel. The moment dominance loses playfulness, it becomes aggression. What women beg for is not the man who dominates to feel powerful, but the man who plays in his dominance to make her feel alive. It's a dance, not a battle. It's tension with laughter, challenge with warmth. And when a man embodies that balance, the relationship stops feeling like a dull march and starts feeling like a thrilling adventure. Now, some men will resist this because they fear rejection. They fear stepping forward, being bold, being teasing, being assertive. Because what if she doesn't like it? What if she pulls away? But the truth is, women don't want men who are afraid of their own masculine energy. They don't want timidity disguised as respect. They want men who can lead with strength while still being playful enough to create joy out of ordinary moments. When you dare to step into playful dominance, you awaken something she didn't even know she was starving for. You show her that life with you will never be flat, never be predictable, never be void of tension and spark. And that is unforgettable. Because when a man can mix confidence with lightness, strength with laughter, desire with spontaneity, he becomes not only the man she respects, but the man she can't stop desiring. A man who dares to embody playful dominance will never be forgotten, because he makes her feel both safe and alive at the same time. One of the deepest longings women carry, though they rarely say it directly, is to be with a man who knows where he is going. A man who has vision and direction. Not because she wants to be controlled, not because she wants to surrender her agency, but because she wants to feel that the person she is walking beside has a compass. She wants to know that the man she gives her trust to is not wandering aimlessly through life, pulled by whatever distraction or temptation comes along, but is anchored in a path that matters. When a man lacks vision, it leaves a void. He becomes reactive, shifting with the winds of circumstance, uncertain, hesitant. And women feel this more than men realize. They sense when he's drifting without purpose, when he's asking her to supply the meaning he has not yet found within himself. And though she may care for him, though she may even love him, she cannot deeply admire him if he has no direction. Admiration flows not to the man who sits passively waiting for life to unfold, but to the one who dares to carve a path, even if it is imperfect, even if it requires risk. Vision doesn't mean you have every step mapped out. It means you've wrestled with yourself enough to know what you stand for, what you're striving toward, and where you refuse to compromise. Direction doesn't mean rigidity, it means momenta. It's the willingness to step forward even when the way isn't perfectly clear. And when a man lives with vision and direction, he radiates something magnetic. He becomes the kind of man who can inspire, not because he promises comfort, but because he embodies movement towards something greater. Think about the weight this carries in a relationship. When a woman knows her man has vision, she feels she can lean into him without fear of collapse. She can trust that his decisions are not random, that his leadership is not accidental, and this trust doesn't make her powerless, it frees her. It allows her to rest from the constant pressure of having to hold everything together herself. It gives her permission to relax into the dance of partnership, knowing she is not being asked to carry both roles. But when vision is absent, resentment builds. She may not articulate it, but she feels it. She feels the exhaustion of being with a man who drifts, who shrinks back, who refuses to choose. She feels the unease of being with someone she cannot follow, not because she doesn't want to, but because there is nowhere to follow him to. And over time, that frustration turns into distance, and that distance turns into disconnection. The irony is that many men avoid owning their vision out of fear, fear of failing, fear of not living up to their own ideals, fear of being judged if they pursue something and stumble along the way. But failure on a path of purpose is infinitely more respectable than safety on a path of nothingness. Women are not begging for perfection, they are begging for direction. They are not asking for guarantees, they are asking for courage. A man with vision doesn't just chart his own course, he invites her into it. He says, "This is where I'm going, and I'd love for you to walk with me." That invitation is one of the most powerful acts of leadership a man can offer. It creates a partnership built not on convenience, but on shared movement towards something meaningful. And here is the truth. A woman will forget the man who hesitated, the man who drifted, the man who waited endlessly for clarity before acting. But she will never forget the man who lived with vision and direction, because he awakens in her the desire not only to follow, but to rise with him towards something greater. If there is one quality that binds everything else together, one trait that amplifies presence, vulnerability, leadership, vision, and strength, it is integrity. And not integrity shown once or twice when it's convenient, but integrity that is consistent, day in and day out, in the small moments just as much as the big ones. Women long for this more than most men realize. They may not always put it into words, but they feel it deeply when it's there, and they feel its absence even more sharply when it's not. Consistent integrity means you do what you say you will do. It means your words are not empty, your promises are not hollow, and your actions line up with the values you claim to live by. And this is not about being flawless. Everyone makes mistakes, but it is about being dependable. A man with integrity becomes a man a woman can trust, not because he is perfect, but because he is real, because he is anchored, because his yes means yes and his no means no. That kind of man is rare, and that is why women never forget him. Think for a moment about how fragile trust can be. It takes months, even years, to build, but it can be shattered in a second, and once it breaks, everything else becomes shaky. Presence without integrity feels hollow. Vulnerability without integrity feels manipulative. Vision without integrity feels like empty ambition. Integrity is the glue that holds all of it together. Without it, nothing lasts. With it, everything strengthens. Women beg for this kind of man not just because it makes them feel safe, but because it commands respect. Respect is not given freely. It's earned through the choices you make, through the way you carry yourself when nobody's watching, through the courage to tell the truth even when it costs you something. A man who cuts corners, who lies to protect himself, who shifts his values to fit the moment, may impress people for a short while, but he will not inspire loyalty. A man of integrity may not always be liked, but he will always be respected. And integrity is tested most not in comfort, but in conflict. It's easy to act righteous when nothing is on the line, but when temptation comes, when pressure builds, when shortcuts present themselves, that's when the truth of your character is revealed. And women see it. They watch how you handle adversity, how you respond when no one is forcing you to choose the right path. They may never say it out loud, but every time you act with integrity, you plant another seed of trust in their hearts. This doesn't mean you never fail. It means when you fail, you own it. You don't hide. You don't deflect blame. You don't excuse yourself into oblivion. You face it, you admit it, and you take steps to make it right. That willingness to stand accountable is itself a form of integrity. And paradoxically, it often makes you more trustworthy, not less, because perfection isn't what creates safety. Consistency does. Most men underestimate how magnetic this is. They think attraction is built on charm, looks, money, or bravado. But none of those things last if integrity is absent, because eventually the mask slips. Eventually the truth comes out. And when it does, everything built on falsehood collapses. But when integrity is there, it doesn't matter what storms come, the foundation holds. And women feel it, they can rest in it, they remember it. A man of consistent integrity is unforgettable because he is rare. He doesn't bend when the world pressures him to conform. He doesn't compromise his values for approval. He doesn't make promises lightly, and he doesn't break them carelessly. He stands firm, not perfectly, but consistently. And that kind of man, steady, grounded, unwavering, leaves a mark that no woman can ignore, because he proves with his life that trust is not just spoken, it is lived. At the heart of it all, what women beg for is not complicated, it's profoundly human. They are not asking for perfection, but for presence. Not for control, but for leadership. Not for empty strength, but for strength that has the courage to be vulnerable. They long for the man who knows where he is going, who carries vision and direction, and who does so with integrity that does not waver. They crave the spark of playful dominance, the joy of laughter woven into confidence, and the rare gift of deep attention in a world starved of presence. The truth is, every one of these positions is available to you. They do not require wealth, status, or flawless charm. They require courage, they require intention, they require a decision to step fully into your role as a man who leads, protects, inspires, and loves with his whole being. And when you embody these qualities, you do more than win a woman's admiration, you awaken her deepest longing to stand beside you. Because in the end, it is not about playing a role, but about becoming the kind of man who cannot be forgotten,